And you know, for all of us working moms, it's not uncommon to wonder, am I doing a good job, whether it's at home or at work or even with the kids? You know, we get so busy with the hustle and bustle of our daily lives that we can feel overwhelmed and basically unappreciated.
Yeah, well, our next guest says it doesn't have to be that way. This is Jocelyn Herman Saccio, and she says that she's coming on the show to show us how we can create versus react, so we feel more empowered and we take control.
Yay!
So great to see you.
It's
Welcome.
so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And you've had a busy weekend.
Yes.
Your daughter is 17, and you said you just used some of these practices with her.
I did. I'll tell you, as you're both working moms, so you know how it is. It's so easy to get into reaction mode. And it's not just about working moms. Anybody gets into reaction mode, dealing with what life is throwing at you versus creating. And there's only one letter difference between create and react. I know you have to think word jumble. I'm like, but it creates a world of difference in terms of your experience, right? So there's a 3-step process that we use at Landmark when we coach people in creating the life of their dreams. And the first step is you got to identify where you're reacting, right? So whatever situation it is, where are you reacting? And for me, I looked at, quality time with my family. It never seems to be enough. And I was always in a reaction overwhelm mode with that. So the first step is to paint a picture of what you really want. And you'd think that would be easy, but that's not the easiest thing for people. They're so busy dealing with what life's throwing at them, they don't spend a lot of time creating what they want.
In your own mind, you mean, or verbalizing
Both.
it? Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously you've got to think about what it is, but then I would share it with your family, with, whoever it is. It could be with your business that you're looking to shift from reacting to creating. Definitely share it with as many people as possible. So you create the picture. Then the second step is, and for my picture was loving, playful time with my family. So then the second step is to distinguish your interpretation from the facts. So for instance, what was actually happening was I was having dinner with my family once a week. And in my interpretation, that was not enough.
Oh.
I was not having enough time to do what I really wanted to do. I was a bad mother, whatever the interpretation is. There's a lot of interpretations you could have.
And what did your family think about that? Were they like, yeah, Mom, you're right, or were they happy? At
They
least
were
they had
fine.
one I know. That's the interpretation part, right?
Yeah,
Right.
the interpretation part, what you actually start to do when you distinguish the facts from the interpretation is you see it's not the only possible interpretation.
Right.
It's a possible interpretation, but it's not the truth. And in that moment, it frees you up to actually see other views.
So are you asking your kids to interpret that back to you, or with the interpretation of how you're feeling?
In that moment, I wasn't.
Okay.
So how I did it was I first just distinguishing what was actually happening, then my interpretation, then I said, okay, the third step is to create new ways of being and acting that would actually fulfill on your picture of what you really want versus just be dealing with your reaction. So the new way of being I created was loving and playful, because that's what I wanted to create. So it was pretty simple. I try and keep things simple. And then some of the new actions were to make requests of my family. So I made a request of my daughter that she prep vegetables, my youngest son that he pick a game that we play after dinner. And all of a sudden it became a party and a project versus this thing that I had to handle all the dinner and then everybody comes and eats and runs back to their room to do whatever they're doing. It was like the process became the prize.
So you're now practicing what you're preaching, in the sense that you say you're practicing your interpretation. You're living it, you're doing it. And this weekend, your daughter had an issue with a boyfriend.
Yes.
So show us an example of that.
It was so perfect because I was, it was right before I came here. It was yesterday, actually, or day before yesterday. And she was having an issue with her boyfriend where she couldn't reach him. They had been texting, and then at some point he stopped texting. And she was reacting. She was very upset about it. And the next morning she had 25 calls from him from a different phone. So she was upset, and I said, you're reacting right now. Let's get into creation mode. And the minute you create how you want it to be, you're in creation mode immediately. So I said, how do you really want it to be? She said, loving and patient. I said, great, so let's see what happened versus your interpretation. She said, what happened is we texted, and then I didn't get a text from him, and then I got 25 calls from him. That's what happened. I said, great, and what's your interpretation? She said, something's fishy. This isn't, exactly. And I was like, okay, is that the only possible? Now, what had happened is his phone got wet and didn't work.
That's what I was thinking.
Exactly.
But of course, that was not our interpretation. So how do you combat this issue? And I know we have this. It's like we put so much pressure on ourselves because I don't know about you or you. I feel like nobody else can do it as good as I can. So I'm going to be the one that's going to cook the dinner, and I'm going to do all that.
Yeah, well, having it all in life, which is really what we want. We want to have it all, right? Is different than doing it all. And that is a key thing. So one of the things I use, not just with my family, but with my business and all the different community work I do, is I make at least 5 bold requests a day. Because if you're not making requests, number one, you're doing too much. Number two, you don't allow people to show up powerful around you and contribute. People love to contribute and make a difference, but everybody wants to have everything done themselves.
Right.
That's a dilemma. You know, so by making those requests of your family, of your workmates, you give them a chance to participate and collaborate with you, and you don't have to do it all.
Oh my goodness, such great advice. We have put all of this advice on SonoraLiving.com. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I appreciate that. So 5 bold things.
I'm going to remember those. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start today. I'm going to be proactive on that one. All right, stay with us. Sonora Living Live will be right back.